Okay, today I want to talk about factoring in tax credits with your movie. A couple things. You could just look at a tax credit, and we're talking about in the U.S. and working those tax credits or tax rebates, and you could just look at the number, right? You could say, oh, New Mexico, 25%. And that one is funny enough, is a good example because New Mexico is one of the best because it's fairly straightforward. $1 million movie, you're going to get $250,000 back. Simple enough, right? So that's one of the easier ones. But there are other ones that you have to factor in. Like suddenly, okay, let's just say some random, Iowa gives you X amount of percentage. And I don't know off the top of my head what Iowa is. But you have to then factor in, okay, now I have to bring cast there, and now I have to bring potential crew there. Like, so for one of the questions is, what is the crew base, right? I remember at one point, Michigan gave a 40% tax credit. It was a big news everywhere. Michigan, 40%. The problem was, there wasn't a lot of crew there. There wasn't some huge crew base, and they didn't flock to Detroit. And so ultimately that tax credit went away because people didn't want to shoot their, okay, 40%, that sounded so great, but it's like, we still have to bring everybody in and house them and put them there. Okay. But other states have done it effectively. Georgia is a perfect example. Louisiana also. And again, I mentioned New Mexico. Another thing is to check with people and see how long it took to get that money back. Some states, New York being one of them, notoriously long to get back the tax credit or tax rebate because they don't have the right management there and they're not doing it correctly as far as getting the monies back to the filmmaker. So you have to check that. You also have to check what applies. Sometimes the above the line doesn't apply. Above the line meaning your cast and your producers and stuff like that. You won't get the 25% or whatever it is back on those, so it'd only be below the line. So you think, oh, $1 million movie, I got $250,000 back. No, $1 million movie might only get $100,000 back, right? Because you have to factor that in. And so another thing to check. Also, something that is extremely important, and I tell people to do this and check this all the time, is what is the minimum spend? What is the minimum spend that you have to spend to be able to qualify for the tax credit? You think and you go, oh, great. This place has a 30% tax credit and I'm gonna get it back, and your movie is $500,000, and you look and $1 million is the minimum for that to qualify for the tax credit. Now, some states don't have a minimum spends, but you have to look at that. The final thing you have to consider is the cap. What is the cap? Like, meaning states allocate a certain amount of money for all the tax credits, right? And what'll happen is a big studio movie will come in, take that tax credit, and it fills it up. And then they don't have the money left. They don't just have, money everywhere that they can just pull, right? States have budgets. So you might get in that line for that tax credit and be ready, okay, I'm shooting this movie in October, blah, blah, blah. And then there's no money left for that tax credit. So it's something that you have to factor in. But the bottom line is it's not as easy as just going, okay, let me Google that state, find out what their tax credit or the tax rebate is, and great, I'll just put that in my budget. A lot of other questions you have to consider. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing. Also, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below.